The haunting dark truth of the Charro Negro, nightmares at 3 a.m. revealed. In the small, sleepy town of San Juan, a shiver raced through the air like a whisper on the wind. The haunting might of the Charro Negro slinked through the narrow streets, a figure cloaked in shadow and fear. It was midnight, the witching hour, when the tales of this specter turned from mere gossip into the chilling reality of nightmares, each whisper echoing like a gunshot in the eerie silence. Some say he strikes at 3 a.m., dragging souls into the darkness, leaving only silence in his wake. It was a night like any other. Children slept, but parents checked locks and peered nervously through curtains, anxiety coiling tight in their stomachs. Were they safe? Or would he come for them too? Strange happenings began to unfold, too bizarre to ignore. A chilling fog rolled in from the mountains, dense and smothering, wrapping the town in a blanket of dread. A rumble of thunder echoed, but there was no storm. Dogs howled at shadows that nobody else could see, their eyes wide with terror. And then there were the disappearances. 2 people vanished without a trace. 1 minute they were there, and the next, they were gone. The locals exchanged wide-eyed glances, each silently wondering if they would be next. Paranoia gnawed at their hearts, tightening like a noose. Something was happening. And it was big. As midnight approached, the tension only thickened. No one dared venture outside, even the streetlights flickered like they breathed a sigh of resignation. The town was alive with whispers, a chorus of murmurs filled with fear and dread, stories woven together, binding the community. They spoke of eerie hoofprints found in the mud near the river, impossibly large and deep, as if the earth itself bore the weight of the darkness. There had been a glimpse of him, they said, just a fleeting shadow by the old oak tree, his eyes glinting like stars in the night, devoid of kindness, only the promise of impending doom. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Just as the clock struck 3, a horrid chill blew in, freezing the blood in everyone's veins. Murmurs stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence that weighed heavily on their shoulders. A figure materialized from the fog, a twisted parody of a man, dressed in torn Charro attire. His face was hidden beneath a black sombrero, and his laughter echoing, mocking, cut through the dim glow of the street lamp. Everyone held their breath, unable to move, instinct screaming to run, but curiosity held them rooted. Who was he really? And before anyone could react, one agonizing shriek pierced the air, followed by an engulfing darkness. The shadows seemed to swallow the light whole. Was it the Charro Negro, feasting on fear? Or something even more sinister? The crowd gasped, wide-eyed and trembling. What awaited them was a dark mystery waiting to unfold, but one question lingered: who would be lost to the night next? A heavy, dreadful silence descended over San Juan. It was as if the air itself had forgotten how to breathe. Faces turned pale, eyes darted wildly, and hearts raced as the crowd fought to comprehend the horror unfolding in front of them. Each pulse echoed the low rumble of the town's collective fear, and they stood together united in terror, paralyzed by an invisible weight. The figure stepped closer, the dull thud of his boots harmonizing with their racing hearts. His outline was menacing, an amalgam of nightmare and grim folklore. He raised his head slightly, revealing a gaunt face, hollow cheeks, and eyes that burned like smoldering coals. In that moment it was clear, he was all that they feared, yet somehow, more. The crowd instinctively took a collective step back, their instincts pushing them away from the creeping dread. As he stopped at the edge of the gathering, the laughter that escaped him morphed into a low growl, thrumming in the air like the vibration of a distant storm. It sent chills racing down spines. What was he? A phantom? A myth? Or something that transcended their wildest nightmares? Behind the figure, a murmur rippled through the crowd, people recalling the recent disappearances. Jessica and Marco, names lost in memory, barely whispered now, as if speaking them would conjure their specters back from the void. "It can't be," a man muttered under his breath, his hands trembling. "It can't be him." But the Charro Negro offered no explanation. He pinned the gathered townsfolk with a wicked gaze, as if judging the very essence of their souls. "You have summoned me," he rasped, his voice like gravel sliding down a hill. "Your fears have called me forth. And now—" He paused, letting the tension suffocate the air around them. "Now, I am here to gather the debts you owe." Before anyone could process the implications of his words, a scream shattered the fragile silence. It broke from a woman pinned to the back of the crowd. Her anchor had just slipped away into the darkness. With frantic eyes, she pointed toward the shadowy figures that flickered and danced just beyond the street lamp's reach. "Help me. I can't hold on." It was too late, the figure was gone. A face formerly full of life was now just an echo, swallowed by the encroaching fog. Panic swelled within the crowd, voices melded into one chaotic symphony of fear and confusion as they clamored for safety. "Run," someone shouted, finally breaking the paralysis. The crowd began to disperse, countless feet pounding the earth in desperate attempts to escape. But each turn only revealed deeper shadows that stalked their retreat, bodies melting away into the night as if they were never there. With each thundering step, the Charro Negro laughed, no longer mocking, but triumphant. The people of San Juan were ensnared in a web of dread, their desperate attempts to flee only tightening its grip. Yet in the shadows, far from the thrumming heartbeat of the town, two figures watched. They stood uneasy, their silhouettes fading in and out of sight, calculating and waiting for the opportune moment. What sinister role did they play in this spectacle? And why did they seem so calm amidst the chaos? As dawn's first light began to creep timidly over the horizon, a chilling question lingered: would the townsfolk of San Juan make it till sunrise, or would they vanish into the darkness, lost forever, like those before them? The morning sun rose with a hesitant glow, shedding light on San Juan in a way that felt both comforting and eerie. Shadows that had loomed large just hours before slowly receded, but the palpable sense of terror lingered thick in the air, as if morning couldn't entirely wash away the stain of the night. Survivors emerged from their hiding places, faces drawn and haunted. Murmurs of dread swept through the streets. "Did you see them?" an old man asked, eyes flitting nervously as he gripped a wooden cane. "Who?" "The ones taken." Another voice replied, a woman with trembling hands, seeking strength from the crowd. "We can't, they're gone, Jessica, Marco, just like that." Her voice cracked under the weight of remembrance that a chilling pain echoed through the hearts of the townsfolk as one person's loss morphed into a collective tragedy. They were no longer just names, they were fragments of a life snuffed out overnight. But as dread seeped into their minds, so did whispers of conjecture. What did the Charro Negro mean by debts? A dark promise woven through fear. Could it be they owed something beyond their comprehension? Fear reshaped into frantic curiosity, culminating in tense conversations. What if he comes for more? A young man, restless, his pulse quickening at the thought of nightfall, echoed a worry all felt but few voiced. Retreaters from the night before exchanged uncertain glances. "We can't just wait for him," said a woman, her voice rising. "We have to do something. We can't let him win." The crowd, drawn together by grief and fear, shifted to a state of tense determination. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about confronting their darkest nightmare. They began gathering supplies, arming themselves with whatever they could find: flashlights, wooden stakes, chants inherited from parents who spoke of the Charro in hushed tones. These were folklore turned tangible, desperate attempts to regain their agency. As they assembled, they felt strength in numbers, adrenaline surging. Yet deep down, they felt the tug of something else, a gnawing uncertainty. Could they withstand the darkness when it came calling again? But among the crowd, two shadows moved subtly, keeping their distance. One of them, a woman cloaked in quiet resolve, turned to the other. "We know too much. It's time to act." The second figure nodded gravely, yet their demeanor betrayed a hint of something darker brewing beneath the surface. Together, they disappeared into the streets, cloaked in purposeful silence, weaving their knowledge into actions yet unseen by the desperate townsfolk. As the sun began its descent, the tension thickened. In the heart of San Juan, shadows lengthened, the air turning electric. While the family of Jessica and Marco hung on to each glimmer of hope, the gathering darkness whispered across the square, foreboding and powerful. "Tonight, we stand," the young man declared, his voice unsteady but fueled by desperation. "We will face him." The echoes of the Charro Negro's laughter danced in the corners of their minds. In the distance, deep under the veil of twilight, a storm began to churn. As night approached, would their courage ignite a spark of defiance? Or would the dark claim them one by one? Would the fate of San Juan be reclaimed, or would it once again plunge into terror? In the silence before the storm broke, an unsettling question echoed through the air: had they truly summoned him? Or had he been waiting all along, biding his time, knowing they would come? The moment of reckoning loomed closer. The sun sank slowly, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, yet the beautiful hues could not lift the weight of despair from San Juan. People tightened their grips on their makeshift weapons, eyes darting around, scanning for threats in the swiftly encroaching darkness. Beneath the surface of their growing defiance, fear simmered like a hot flame, ready to ignite. As twilight settled, the young man gathered the crowd again, clearing his throat. "Listen, everyone," he called, his voice echoing off the cobblestones. "We need to form search parties. We need to cover more ground before it's too late." Whispers spread through the crowd. Some hesitated, glancing at one another with doubt flickering in their hearts. What if they went looking for trouble, only to find it? A few stepped back, clinging to their fears, but others joined him, driven by the urgency of their lost friends. Tonight was not just about battles fought with weapons but battles fought with resolve. Families clung together, creating a makeshift force driven by both desperation and hope. As the group spread out, two shadows were still lingering in the background, observing the chaos around them. The woman, her determined jaw set, looked toward her companion. She could sense the tension tightening the air like a bowstring. "We're not here to chase ghosts," she whispered, an edge to her tone. "We're here to make sure this ends. Once and for all." The other figure clenched their fists. Knowing too well the depths to which the Charro Negro could draw his victims, they shot back, "You know what's at stake. We're tempted to dive into this darkness, but can we trust the others? They might betray us." "I'm not asking for trust," she replied, her voice cold and resolute. "I'm asking for courage. We have the knowledge they don't. They may charge headfirst into danger, but we can navigate the shadows." The storm in the distance grew louder, thunder rumbling like angry spirits. Flashes of lightning illuminated their faces, the brief light revealing the intensity etched in their features. With newfound determination, they stepped into the darkening streets. Nearby, a small group of villagers huddled around a cracked flashlight, its beam flickering as a woman recited a chant her grandmother taught her long ago. "El Charro va a caer," she whispered, "the Charro will fall." The chant took on a life of its own, rising and falling with each breath, wrapping them in a fragile cloak of belief. "Is that supposed to work?" Someone scoffed, glancing skeptically at the speaker. The woman faltered, but the intensity of her belief ignited a flicker of hope in the others. Uncertainty began to melt, then came the sound, the unmistakable weight of hooves against the cobblestones, a slow, deliberate rhythm echoing through the night. Gasps pierced the silence as everyone turned toward the sound, terror flooding back into their eyes. "Is that?" A voice trailed off, fear replacing hope. Lightning cracked overhead, illuminating a tall silhouette, dark and menacing, standing at the edge of the village square. The Charro Negro was here, enveloped in an aura of dread, his laughter echoing softly like a ghostly chant. The night wrapped around the townsfolk like a shroud, and in that breathless moment, they could feel his presence seep into their very souls. A sudden wave of panic swept through them, their collective fight or flight instinct kicked in. "We need to," another voice started, but before it could finish, the Charro stepped forward, the shadows clinging to him, twisting and writhing, hungry for light, their hearts raced, eyes wide, breath caught in their throats. Would they rise to the challenge, or had they unwittingly walked into a trap? As he approached, the air crackled with tension. The question hung heavy: what debts had they unknowingly accrued? The moment of confrontation was at hand, but as darkness surged, a chilling thought echoed: what if this was just the beginning? What would happen when dawn broke? In the unfolding night, the depths of their choices loomed, pregnant with fate. A chill gripped the air as the Charro Negro loomed closer, his dark figure almost consuming the light from the flickering flashlights. The laughs faded, replaced by an eerie silence, punctuated by the racing hearts of terrified villagers. Faces wore masks of fear and fury, desperate to shield their loved ones as pandemonium nipped at their heels. "Stand your ground!" the young man shouted, brandishing a crowbar. It felt heavy in his grip, a lifeline amidst the approaching darkness. Around him, the crowd hesitated, caught in the crossfire of fear and resolve. He could see the woman from earlier, her face pale but determined, urging others forward with a fierce gleam in her eye, but their unity was fragile. The Charro's laugh smothered hope. It poured over them like a black fog, stifling the flickers of courage trying to ignite. "How sweet you all look," he taunted, his voice like gravel scraping over glass. "So, eager to lose what little hope you have left." Whispers cascaded through the crowd, each person fearing the devouring shadows closing in around them. "He's just messing with us," someone muttered, voice trembling. Another echoed, "We can't let him get into our heads." That resolute spark sputtered. The villagers were a mixed bag, some still clutching stubborn hope, others paralyzed by terror. The Charro's eyes glinted with malice, watching as doubt became a poison seeping through the lines. With a sudden rasp of manipulation, he turned his focus to the young man. "Do you believe you can protect them?" he sneered. "What are you willing to sacrifice?" The question stung like a slap. Clenching his fists tighter, the young man felt the weight of responsibility churn in his stomach. "I would give my life for theirs," he shouted, desperation bleeding into his voice. "Ah, how noble," the Charro retorted, his voice a mix of mockery and fascination. "But maybe you'll have to choose another life, to take." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Uncertainty began to claw at their sanity. Would one of them be sacrificed to save the rest? Was this a twisted fate they could escape? Then, it happened. A dark figure burst forth from the shadows, an old man, limping and ragged, with haunted eyes that glowed fiercely. "Stop!" he shouted, his voice raw but commanding. "I've seen him. I know his power." "Father!" a woman cried, anxiety gripping her throat as she darted forward. But the Charro waved his hand dismissively, shadows retreating and swirling in frustration. "I've witnessed what the night conceals. For too long, he has fed on fear." The old man's words ignited a flicker of clashing emotions among the villagers. Hope fought against despair with each syllable. "Go on," the Charro demanded, his smirk fading. "Show them what you've witnessed. Or is it just more tales from an old tree?" The old man's hands trembled, but he stood firm. "He feeds off regret and sorrow. He uses your darkness against you. And the only thing stronger than his shadows is the light you all carry deep inside." A sudden crack of lightning illuminated their faces like a twisted photograph. Hearts soared, but dread lingered. Could they even begin to believe it? Would they dare to confront the darkness together? The Charro roared, shadows swirling around him like a living blanket. "Fools! You think you can fight me with mere light?" But in that moment, something began to shift. Hope flickered in their eyes as the old man continued, "You must unite. Light binds, and together you can turn the darkness." A murmur of agreement began to rise, swelling like a tide against the cliffs of despair. They formed a circle, hands grasped tightly together, resolved to shine against the horrors that shadowed their lives. Around them, the tension morphed into something electric, a pulse of human spirit, igniting a fire neither dark nor black could extinguish. But the Charro Negro, feeling the shift, steeled his gaze. A light shines brightest in the face of fear, he rasped, but remember. His voice dropped, resonating with a predatory edge. Shadows will always find a way back. The villagers could feel the storm pressing down, both outside and within as they prepared to face the darkness that threatened to consume them. Would their gathered light withstand the Charro's impending wrath, or would they unravel under his wicked games? A reckoning awaited, a confrontation that felt imminent, and there was no turning back now. The night loomed heavy, promising revelations and consequences with each passing second. Would it end in triumph or tragedy? Only the dawn would tell. The darkness pulsed around them, a living thing, wrapping tighter with each moment. The Charro Negro stood there, a dark statue carved from the very essence of fear itself. His laughter echoed through the night, a chilling symphony that mocked the fragile unity of the villagers. The young man tightened his grip on the crowbar, sweat beading on his brow. "We won to let you win," he said, voice quaking but determined. "Together, we're stronger." Around him, fervent faces mirrored his resolve, but shadows danced in their eyes. They had fought against this darkness for so long, and weariness threatened to take root. The Charro's presence was suffocating, a dense fog that choked life and breath from the air. "Stronger? Is that so?" The Charro stepped closer, the darkness swirling in his wake. "Show me your strength, little heroes. Or will you crumble like all the others before you?" He lifted a gloved hand, launching a wave of shadows crashing against their barrier of light. Gasps filled the air as the collective fear flickered, the pulse of doubt threatening to ignite into chaos. "Hold fast!" the old man shouted, his voice breaking through the turmoil. "Remember your light. It shines in the depths of despair. The darkness can only thrive where light is absent. You have to believe." The villagers squeezed their hands tighter, urgency lending fire to their connection. They thought of their homes, their families, the love and laughter that illuminated their days. Slowly, that warmth slipped through the cracks of fear, igniting inside them. "Let your light shine." Another voice came, then another, as more joined in, their voices weaving a chorus of defiance that in the heart of the circle, the glow flickered and expanded, revealing the sacred bond they shared. Shadows retreated momentarily, howling in frustration. The Charro's sharp smile faltered, replaced by a curdling rage. "You think mere belief can save you? You will all pay for this foolishness." Suddenly, an explosion of energy erupted from within their circle. A blinding brightness enveloped them, forcing the shadows to recoil. The young man's eyes widened as he felt the strength radiate from every villager's heart, merging into a single, powerful force. But then, the ground trembled violently, sending the villagers staggering as cracks began to form beneath their feet. "Don't break the circle!" shouted the woman, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Stay together!" The Charro Negro cackled, his laughter mixing with the sound of shattering earth. "You may glow like the sun, but every light casts a shadow. What is done in the past cannot be erased." With that, the ground split open, revealing a chasm so deep it swallowed the dull light. From it, voices shrieked a discordant choir of long-buried regrets and sorrow. The very shadows of the villagers' past tragedies clawed their way into the present, feeding on fear, on the insecurities that had gripped their hearts. Panic rippled through the group as they confronted their inner demons. An old man screamed out, a memory flashing across his mind, a lost child. A woman fell to her knees, grieving a lover lost to time. Each heartache rose like a specter, threatening to drag them down into the abyss. "No!" the young man bellowed, his spirit igniting once more. "We will not be defeated. We are more than our shadows, our light is greater than this darkness." He saw the flickers of determination reignite in his fellow villagers. "Remember what we fight for. We carry each other's burdens, let the light guide us." With one final rallying cry, their collective light surged forth, pushing back against the encroaching shadows. But the Charro Negro roared in defiance, a harsh wind howling against them. "You are weak. This light will never last. The battle for their futures raged violently in the heart of the storm. Would their united spark endure, or would the screaming shadows drag them all into eternal night? Desperation gripped their hearts as the walls of darkness closed in once more, but in that moment, each villager understood the weight of their togetherness. The dawn felt far away, yet they stood on the precipice of hope. Their sacrifice, their unity, it was all coming to a climax, but just as the light threatened to envelop the darkness entirely, the Charro unleashed a devastating blow, a revelation that had been hidden in the depths of their fears. "Do you really think this ends with strength?" he hissed. "What if I told you that to conquer me, you must confront the very essence of your fear?" The air thickened, stillness weighing heavy like a coiling serpent, a question lingering in the darkness: were they ready to face their deepest fears? Would overcoming them forge an unbreakable light, or would the shadows draw them under? A chilling silence descended as the truth lingered on the edge of horror, waiting to be unveiled. The silence pressed down heavily, suffocating, as if the darkness itself held its breath. The villagers stood frozen, stark terror coursing through them, the Charro Negro's words piercing deeper than any blade. Could they confront that which haunted them the most? The young man felt a shiver crawl up his spine, the chilling reality of fear wrapping around him. Memories he had buried began to surface, faces lost, choices unmade. He clenched his jaw, fighting to hold on to the flicker of light within, but the shadows of each regret began to swirl ominously, beckoning him to join the abyss. "Think!" he shouted, voice cracking under pressure. "What are we truly afraid of? We can't let him break us." A flash of resolve sparked in the eyes of a woman nearby, her features twisted in pain. "My son, I can't face losing him again," she gasped, breath hitching as tears welled. "What if he never returns home?" Around her, the air grew thick with anxious whispers, each villager voicing fears that clawed at their hearts. One spoke of judgment, another of betrayal, and soon the circle was filled with a storm of buried sorrows. The Charro grinned wider, relishing in the chaos. "Delicious," he purred, reveling in their despair. "Face the truth, mortals. You are nothing but echoes of your ghosts." The young man staggered as a wave of despair washed over him. Each anguished expression in the circle resounded deep within, a memory of his own past echoing painfully. He recalled the moment he had let down his father, the moment they had lost everything. Would he let that darkness consume him now? He took a shaky step forward, refusing to retreat into memories that threatened to drown him. "We can't give in." He pointed at the Charro, heart racing. "This isn't just your game. We choose our own futures." A small flicker ignited in the eyes of the villagers, a whisper of rebellion against the looming abyss. The woman's voice rose once more: "No. My fears won't take me down. Not again." As if ignited by her words, the crowd began to rally. "We are not defined by our fears," a man shouted, raising his arms to the sky. "We are stronger than what shattered us." Momentum built like a wildfire, voices intertwining into a symphony of defiance. "We stand as one. Our light outweighs the dark." The surge of energy pulsed through them, the radiant warmth edging out the cold shadows as the villagers held hands, forming a network of solidarity. The boy felt the life flowing through their collective resolve. He knew they were about to ignite a new flame of hope. "Feel your fears." The Charro's laughter turned desperate. "Let them take you, I urge you." But it was too late. The villagers began to confront their fears one by one. The old man faced the specter of his lost child, tears streaming, yet finding solace in shared memories, an acceptance of his heartache. The woman confronted her past love's absence, finding strength in the love she still held and the stories she could share. One by one, they transformed their burdens, reframing fear as a strength, a testament to their survival. The light around their circle blazed brighter, illuminating the night and forcing back against the creeping shadows, but the Charro Negro, cornered, screamed with fury as the darkness recoiled. "You will pay for this insolence. The shadows are just beginning to stir." Suddenly, the ground shook violently once more, casting the villagers into disarray. The light pulsed, flickered, teetering on the edge. The deep chasm still loomed, hungry for despair. The young man staggered, eyes darting through the chaos. Together. Don't let go. Fight for what you love. As the shadows morphed and twisted into horrific forms, each villager prepared to confront the newest horrors. Were they ready to face the full intensity of their fears? Could they hold on when the darkness threatened to drag them back into the abyss? The true test loomed closer, echoing on the edge of their resolve, waiting to see if unity could conquer the dark heart of their memories. But as the Charro's next chilling words slipped into the air, it became clear this battle was just beginning, and the true horror was yet to be unveiled. The ground trembled as if alive, shaking with the wrath of the Charro Negro. The villagers stumbled but held tight to each other, their bravery woven into an unbreakable chain. A palpable energy surged around them, a flicker of light against the swallowing dark. Embrace the fear. The Charro's voice curled and twisted, dripping with mockery. Shadows darted in and out of the light, creatures formed from the deepest recesses of their pain. They swarmed toward the villagers, faces contorted into anguished masks of loss and betrayal. The young man gritted his teeth, every instinct screaming to bolt, but he stood firm, heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos surrounding him. As the first monster lunged, a villager screamed, drowning in the recognition of a lost loved one. A flicker of doubt crept into the young man's mind. Would they fall apart, devoured by their regrets, or could they face this collective nightmare together? Remember. He shouted, voice cutting through the rising panic. We are stronger when we face our fears. The woman, now emboldened, stepped forward, meeting her specter head-on. I see you, you will not control me. She exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks as she embraced the ghostly figure. Instead of faltering, she found an unexpected strength, her hands glowing as she touched the apparition. Love and pain swirled together in a dance of acceptance, and slowly, the specter began to dissolve into a gentle wisp of light. One by one, the villagers followed her lead, confronting their shadows. A father cried out to his lost son, "You are part of me. I will not let you go." He stepped toward the dark fog, and as their souls collided, he too transformed his sorrow into a beacon, lighting the abyss around him. The Charro watched, his grin waning. You fools! This will be your undoing. He reached a hand out, summoning a swell of darkness, tendrils reaching for the young man. They wrapped around his ankles, pulling him, threatening to drag him back into despair, but just as despair closed in, he recalled the flickering light of hope. We are not alone in this. He yelled, lifting a hand as the villagers all responded, raising their own arms high. The bright energy pooled above them, a shimmering glow that chased back the tendrils of darkness. Together. They cried, uniting their voices. The sound vibrated through the air, pushing against the Charro's dark magic. The ground shook again, but this time it felt different, as though the earth itself was rallying behind them. With each soul freed from the shadows, the light grew stronger, illuminating the charred landscape, blinding against the darkness. It shimmered as it fought against the Charro's rage, his laughter twisting into a shriek of frustration. Then came a moment of stillness, and eerie calm enveloped the villagers. The Charro's figure flickered, his power waning but not extinguished. You think this is over? The anger in his voice cut like ice, chilling them all. You have awakened forces beyond your comprehension. Fear seeped back into the villagers' hearts. But the young man stepped forward, emboldened and resolute. We choose to fight. We choose to believe. His chest tightened with every word, the weight of the past still heavy, but now tempered by courage. Before their eyes, the Charro began to shimmer, shadows roiling around him. You have awakened the darkness, he said, his voice now an echo, both mocking and afraid. And now, you will face the true terror that lies ahead. The tension crackled in the air, thick and waiting. Time stretched, pulse quickening as they sensed the darkness beginning to morph. The true nature of the abyss was unveiling itself, and as the villagers gripped each other tighter, a cold chill swept through, promising that every nightmare they faced might not be over yet. What dark revelations awaited them? What shadows still lurked at the corners of their fears? The villagers stood ready, but unknown horrors drew near, as the Charro revealed a deeper game that could change everything. The shadows shifted violently, thrumming like a taut string ready to snap. The air crackled, thick with tension. Faces among the villagers flickered with determination but also with dread, each flickering light pushing against the oppressive darkness. They could feel the Charro Negro's presence growing, like a storm on the horizon, unfurling cracks of unseen terror. "Prepare yourselves," whispered the young man, his voice steady amid the chaos. "We must not let this darkness consume us." He looked around, meeting the eyes of his comrades, their hearts racing as one. They drew strength from the memories they shared, pouring those feelings into the glowing mass hovering above them. The Charro's laughter echoed, twisted and sickening, wrapping around them like a serpent. "What you embrace is your doom," he hissed. "The shadows will reveal what you fear the most, the demons of your past, and there is no escaping them." In an instant, the ground beneath them heaved, and the air shifted. The darkness pulsated with a life of its own, taking on forms that twisted and writhed like smoke. Specters of regret floated towards the villagers' lost family members, haunting failures, faces etched in despair. The young man felt his breath hitch in his throat as he saw the image of his mother, eyes hollow, lips murmuring silent pain. "Fight it!" The woman from earlier screamed, the light pulsing stronger around her. "This is not who we are. We can change it. Remember who you are." The young man shouted back, unwavering. He stepped forward, channeling every piece of love he had for his mother, standing in the face of that crushing sorrow. "You taught me to live, not to drown in despair." With that, he reached out his hand, feeling the warmth of connection build between them. The apparition hesitated, flickering in and out. It looked at him, recognition dawning amidst the shadows. He could see her form struggling, bound by chains of regret, winced by the longing of what could have been. But slowly, something shifted. Yes. The villagers joined in, pouring memories and love into their frightened phantoms. The father standing beside the young man knelt, eyes brimming with tears as he faced his son's ghost. "You are my light, my child. Together, we can find peace." A surge of brightness burst forth, a shimmering tide sweeping through the throng, each specter touching their hands and dissolving into shimmering motes of light. And with each acceptance, with each resolve, the Charro's laughter faltered, strings of darkness writhing angrily as he lost hold on their fears. "Foolish mortals," he spat. "You cannot defeat what thrives within you. I shall unleash the horrors of your past, and you will crumble." The atmosphere thickened as he wove a darker magic. The shadows converged, forming a whirlpool of tormented whispers. "What is happening?" Someone thrashed in fright. Panic swept through the crowd, but the young man raised his voice above the clamor. "Focus. We are more than our past, we are willing to face it. We can reshape our story." Yet the Charro smirked, the shadows enveloping him, channeling the darkness that lurked in every corner of their hearts. "You believe you can banish me? Then witness what lies deeper within." Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the center of the swirling darkness, followed by a flash. A deep, unsettling silence wrapped around them. What was that? A woman gasped, her eyes wide as they all turned to the source. Silence spiraled, tightening around the villagers, leaving them trembling. Shadows closed in, swallowing the last remnants of light. No one was prepared for what would come next. A deeper darkness emerged, far more insidious and powerful than before. What horrifying truth lay in wait? What part of their past would break loose from the shadows? The villagers stood firm, heartbeats racing, ready to confront whatever horror the Charro brought forth. But they had never expected that their greatest fear could be standing right next to them. The darkness roared around the villagers, a living entity pushing against their tenuous light. The Charro Negro's laughter echoed with twisted relish, each laugh a taunt that sank deep into their hearts. Shadows flexed, blurring the lines of reality and nightmare, as if the night was swallowing sanity whole. "Prepare yourselves!" the young man shouted, his voice barely cutting through the din. He squared his shoulders, facing the encroaching storm of shadows surrounding them. "We are more than our fears." The Charro's figure twisted, his shadows unfurling like claws. "Oh, you brave little souls think you can withstand the darkness? I shall reveal to you the truth you hide from." Suddenly, from within the swirling shadows, forms began to seep out. These were not just mere phantoms, these were their faces desperate, tormented, and familiar. The villagers stood frozen, the truth crashing over them like a tidal wave. "Jessica! Marco!" gasped a woman, gripping her friend's arm as the specters of her friends emerged, eyes wide with pain. Their faces weaved in and out, reaching out but unable to connect, a haunting mirror of what once was. "No!" the young man shouted. "No more. You won't take them from us." But the darkness tightened, the painful echoes rising around them. Each villager began to see their own deepest regrets materialize from the depths. "It's not real!" someone screamed as they faced the visage of a lost loved one. "This can't be happening." Yet, in the heart of that chaos, the old man from earlier stood firm. "No." His voice broke through. "These are not our enemies. They are parts of us. Face them, embrace them, and they can't have power over you." And so he stepped forward, trembling but resolute. He approached the specter of his lost child, tears streaming down his face. "I remember you. I loved you. You taught me how to be alive." The shadows surged menacingly, threatening to drown his light, but he pressed on. "I see you in everything I do. You're never lost." Suddenly, the specter blinked, hesitation rippling through the darkness. "Father?" it whispered, caught between the fabric of reality and memory. The village watched with bated breath, their own fears teetering on the edge of resolve. One by one, the young man called out, his voice fuller now, echoing hope amidst chaos. "Face your shadows. We are not defined by them." The mother, gripping her heart, peeled her eyes away from the specter of her son. "You are my heart. You walked with me in light, and I will not let you drown in this darkness." She stepped forward, reaching into the shadows. It was as if the very air crackled with her declaration, words of strength seeping through the collective fear standing in their way. More followed her lead, love illuminating across the village circle. Each villager faced the demons of regret, the phantoms of despair, proclaiming their love, reclaiming the lost pieces of themselves. "We are not our failures," a woman cried, her hand clasped tightly with another. "We rise above them." The light thrummed around them, igniting sparks of courage that burst forth with ferocity, spiraling upward as a beacon against the darkness. The Charro Negro howled in fury, shadows writhing, desperate to latch on to that light. But with each step forward, with each reclaimed truth, the shadows of their fears shriveled under the enveloping warmth. "You fools!" the Charro bellowed, fury spilling from his lips, his figure beginning to flicker. "You think this ends well for you? The darkness needs only a moment of weakness." "No." The villagers united their voices, a mellifluous tide of resistance. "We are unbreakable. Together, we rise." With a sudden burst, a wave of light climbed above their circle. It danced defiantly, piercing through the final barriers of shadow. The overpowering laughter of the Charro turned on itself, morphing into a scream that shattered the darkness. There was no longer room for fear, no room for doubt. That in a flash, blinding light erupted, forcing the shadows to recoil violently. The villagers gasped as colors returned, orchestrated layers spilling into frames once caught in despair. The Charro Negro grimaced, twisting as he was ripped apart by the luminous force. Then silence fell, a pregnant pause draping over them like a shroud. The last vestiges of darkness evaporated, replaced by a profound stillness in the air. They stood together, hearts pounding, hands still intertwined, awash in warmth and trembling disbelief as they gazed into the unfolding dawn. In that golden light, they met each other's eyes, breathless in the realization of what they had just accomplished. "We are safe," someone whispered, the words soft and sweet yet vibrant with affirmation. The shadows of their past were never truly gone, but now they existed alongside hope, a reflection of survival and resilience. With that shared understanding, they turned together to face the morning sun rising over San Juan, painting the horizon in hues of gold and red. A new day, a new beginning, and as they walked home, hand in hand, the spirit of the Charro Negro drifted away, his dark laughter fading into nothingness. The town was not free, but it would rise, stronger each day against the darkness that dared to return. Now, before you leave this chapter behind, let us talk. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on our next exciting story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. And please, flood the comments section with your thoughts on this astonishing conclusion. What would you do facing the Charro Negro? Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the triumph over fear. Show your support for our journey together. This is the moment to unite as a community.